Sorry about the little jump cut there. The battery on the camera died. Anyway,
so
let's speed roll
Trini
this.
explains Rita's plot that she's gonna attack Angel Grove at dawn.
Yeah,
and they go. She gave them a hint at where Rita would be, so they go there and they think they're gonna fight her, but they see a guy, like a fisherman, on a chair.
Yeah, he's
and
all tied up.
Apparently, Rita's calling card is water dripping. So he looks up, and Trini's like, "Oh crap!" And Rita falls down and beats the crap out of them.
Yeah,
because she takes them easily, because she's obviously wearing her armor, so she has her powers. They don't.
And so that she ties them all up because hentai.
Yeah. And then she goes to each of them and is like, "You're gonna tell me where the Zeo crystal is, or I'll kill
you
one by
one."
And
she of course figures out that Billy is the only one of them that figured out where the...
But she goes to Jason first.
Yeah.
She's like, "Red, the leader, where is the Zeo crystal?" And he headbutts her because he's a stubborn idiot. And she's like, "Oh, you're feisty." She's like, "You're wondering what I'm planning. I'll just come out and tell you." Like, just the boat.
"I'm going to kill you one by one until you tell me where the Zeo crystal is."
So she goes to Billy. She's like, "Blue," and she starts describing the traits that make the blue ring. And then you're gonna tell me where it is, and I'm gonna kill the Black Ranger by sticking her staff up to his throat, which is doing the same thing it did in the flashbacks with the lines on his face and like him dying. It's like 3, 2, and then it's a Krispy Kreme. She's like, "Krispy Kreme. This must be a place." I can't remember.
A very special place. It's like, yes, it is.
Yes. So she decides Zordon won't. She literally says Zordon won't respect me anymore if I don't kill one of you, and then just slams her staff on the ground and kills the Blue Ranger.
Yeah.
Because she basically drowns him.
Yeah, but then like she just the rope that he's attached, she just dunks it right into the water.
And then I think she said something else, but then she let the other 4 go.
Yeah.
Instead of drowning, she lets them just get off, and then they pull Billy up, and he's dead. And this is your biggest issue.
Yeah. I mean, I could understand if they tried CPR and it didn't work because it was too long, but they didn't even mention the idea of trying it. Like
they literally just pulled him up and like, "He's dead."
He's dead. Yeah. Well, okay. Check his pulse. No pulse.
He's dead.
Start pounding his chest and doing mouth to mouth.
No.
At least try it.
No, he's just dead. And then they pick him.
It would have been again. I have to bring this up.
Yes.
It would have taken them like 5 seconds to actually just have them start pounding his chest and maybe try to revive him, but just fail. And then they're like, "Oh, he's dead. He's gone." But just
no.
Anyway.
They did nothing. But
here's the part you had issue with.
They picked him up. And each of them picked him up.
Like, basically, in this position.
He's sprawled out like Jesus on a cross. Like, what is he, a martyr? But...
No, you're technically in that situation, yes.
But each of them are super strong. They could have easily... One of them could have carried them by themselves. Like, they could jump huge distances, break like, porcelain easily. How come they couldn't pick up a human body over their... shoulder,
or they could have just wrapped him up in something,
but instead they went for Jesus symbolism.
And not to mention they were carrying a dead body. I know it's the middle of the night, but somebody could have spotted them and they're like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?"
But they take him to Zordon, and they tell Zordon to revive him, which he can't.
The part that I was perplexed by, they walked all that way. That looked like it was a long freaking distance. They walked just holding the anyway.
Super durability.
I know, but still.
Super sight, super durability.
I know, but I mean, just like, why? Anyway.
Yeah. So they take him to Zordon, and they start getting, they start being emotional.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, because you want to be emotional when somebody dies. But they each say they would trade their lives for Billy. Kimberly states that she thinks she's the problem why they can't morph.
And
she hasn't been honest with them.
It's because of their sadness and their compassion that it's a very digidestined moment.
That they decide he sacrificed himself for us. We're gonna continue anyway. So they step on. No,
they don't. The Matrix suddenly
it creates
activates
a massive amount of energy.
Yeah.
Which Zordon is going to use to revive himself.
But then decides instead
to revive Billy.
Yeah.
Which is probably like the most emotional scene in the movie. Like that combination of scenes is the most emotional. Like I've seen a lot of Power Ranger fans say that they cried like in that scene because it's Power Rangers doesn't talk about death a lot. Like only really one of the characters has died on screen before. Like it's not something they do with. So when you see it,
kids show, right? Especially in the early '90s.
But when you see it, it makes it that much more emotional. That I honestly, for watching it the first time, I thought, are they really doing this? Like, are they really killing? Because in the commercials for it, they showed a scene of the Blue Ranger morph fighting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are they really doing this? Are they really throwing us this big a curveball? But no, he wakes up with the iconic spouting water, like somebody who's obviously had CPR, like when you pull them out of the ocean and you press on them, they water.
Yeah. Which is again what they should have tried to begin with. Again, they could have had it not work, but they should have tried it. And that is basically what ruined the entire scene for me. That was literally all I was thinking throughout all that emotional moments. Like, why didn't you just try to use CPR on him?
Anyway, I don't know. I was stuck in the emotion. I was like, I'll admit,
again,
I did cry one Indian tear.
Yeah, well, but yeah.
You know that joke that I'm referencing where it's like a picture of a Native American and one tear goes down their cheek?
I've never heard it called that, but...
It's an Indian... Whatever.
Anyway,
but then they decide... I loved how they executed this line. They decide that they're going to morph, and then they step on... Everyone but Jason steps on, and Jason's looking at it, he's like, it's morphin' time. I was like, as serious as possible, but I still had a rush of nostalgia hit me. I was like, oh my god, they actually said it, like in the actual phrase from the original show. Because every time they would transform, they would go, it's morphin' time. I was like, oh my, and then so they're morphing. So it's showing the process of the armor attaching.
Yeah.
Which Zordon's head has been in them this entire time.
Because cliche, like
the power is within me.
The Schwartz is in you, Lone Star. It's in you. Because
But then, as they're getting ready to leave, apparently Rita has been in the same vicinity as the ship the entire time. Because that's the same area.
The gold mine. Because she needs gold to make gold.
So she's like over here, and they're over here. As she creates a giant goldar.
Yeah.
And I love they look at it and Zach's like, that's a lot of gold.
That is one big pile of shit. That's a lot of fish. These are a lot of cheesy references.
But then the putties start attacking them, so the putties fall through the water and they start fighting them, and it's a really disorienting fighting scene.
Why did they keep calling them putties? They're really more rock monsters. They don't look like putty. They look more like the Thing from Fan 4 Stick.
Just because they were putties in the original and they're not going to change the name. They changed no names at all.
Yeah, but again, the one that really repulsed that. Again, you could have just called her Rita and just left it at that. But no, they had to actually have in this semi-serious, superhero-ish movie. Have the main villain last name be Repulsa, and on top of that, Zordon was surprised when she betrayed him when her last name was Repulsa.
Why would you recruit her in the first place? I know the power coins have their mind of their own.
It's like, the Autobots were surprised that the Decepticons were liars. Who would have thought the Decepticons were liars? Who would have thought that...
Deception in their name? No!
Who would have thought that someone named Repulsa would be repulsive and evil? Who would have thought?
Yeah. But I think the power coin chose her, so I guess Zordon had no choice, but he probably assumed she was...
The only way they could maybe, fix that is that she chose that name after becoming evil, kind of like, I am Darth Vader. I am now Rita Repulsa. The old me doesn't exist anymore, but anyway, whatever.
So they have a fight. They have a really disorienting fight scene with the monsters falling to pieces, but them falling in front of the camera, which just like felt really weird because they'd be in the background and then there'd be a putty in the foreground.
That was probably to melt the 3D tickets.
Yeah, but then they have an awesome fight scene in the suits before they go to the Zords with randomly Jason has a sword arm.
Yeah.
It showed nothing of how he literally just his arm just became a blade. Like there was no explanation of him saying like, oh, sword arm or something. Like there was nothing to give idea that his arm was about to become a sword, or that apparently the sword was the source of his powers. Because at the end of the movie, he takes the sword off and sticks it in the ship in I guess a holster, and it deactivates his powers. Like, where did that come from?
It's probably a case where they had shot scenes like of that being explained before, but cut them.
Right. Yeah. Because they also, as I mentioned this just after we saw it, but they cut a scene from the scenario where Kimberly and Jason are in his bedroom, which was apparently yes, a kissing scene. But the director Ben Israelite had like a private screening, like I don't know how long ago, with a bunch fans or whatever, and they said no, it doesn't belong. So he decided to remove it.
Yeah, well, which again, good plan because. It's way in every movie ever. It's the love interest cliche is gotten way too oversaturated. So we need to change it up a bit.
Because they hinted throughout the whole thing that Jason and Kimberly would have started
True, but there's nothing wrong with that. But just save it for the sequels. Give it some more time to grow so it can be at least believable.
Yes. But
you know?
Yeah. I guess they decided
give them some more chemistry, some more time to develop chemistry.
Instead of Tommy and Kimberly having a relationship, it would be Jason and Kimberly. Because in the original show, Kimberly fell for Tommy.
The Green Ranger?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she fell for the Green.
Yeah.
But so then they get overwhelmed by the putties, and they can't beat them. So Zach goes and grabs his Zord,
and just
the least mastodon-looking thing you've ever seen. Because it has way too many legs, but alien. At least the other things somewhat resembled what they were supposed to.
To me, the whole thing just kind of looked like a Transformer rhinoceros. It looked like a Michael Bay...
Rhinox.
Rhinox, exactly what I was going to say. if Michael Bay did Beast Wars, that's what the Zords would be.
But, so then they...
I'll admit the T-Rex Zord did look pretty cool, though. It looked a lot better than Grimlock did in Bayformers, but,
So then they have a Zord battle with Goldar, which had my favorite opener ever when they cut to all 5 of them in a row, and they start playing Go-Go Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the first time I watched it, I wanted to jump out of my chair. I was so hyper nostalgic at that. It felt like they played the song at the appropriate time, although they probably could have played it when the Rangers were suited up walking out. But I don't mind that play. But it's just like, go Power Rangers. That's all they played. Was basically
Another thing
that one line.
I'm gonna mention. I just realized just now the Jake's Zord or whatever.
Zach or Billy?
No,
Jason?
Jason's Zord, the red one?
Yeah.
It looks like Groudon. It looks like a mechanical Groudon. I just realized that right now. It's a mechanical Groudon.
With guns out of his neck.
So yeah, very Digimonified Groudon.
So they start fighting...
Groudonmon.
They start fighting Goldar, and Goldar's kicking their asses because he's big compared to...
He's basically this giant golem made of... molten gold. Well, more molten gold.
Yeah,
it looked like molten gold.
Solid enough to stand and not just fall apart, but
so like a giant T-1000 made of gold, basically. And of course there's a funny little reference that we both noticed. Sorry, Bumblebee.
Yeah, at some point, Jason is fighting a bunch of putties with his Zord, and he decides to. There's a Camaro. And he just decides, I'm going to hit the Camaro at them with the line.
Well, basically, it wasn't even that. It was like he stepped on it and tried to use it as a boot to kick them with. And it was like, sorry, Bumblebee.
Yeah.
Screw you, Bayformers! Our movie is better than yours!
Yeah. Just keep playing with this for no reason.
Yeah.
But then, so Goldar is beating the crap out of them, and then there's a scene where Jason's dad is driving in a truck, and where he mentions the streets he's on, which were the Power Ranger references that we mentioned earlier. So then he has a car crash, and Jason gets out of his Zord, runs over to him, rips off the door, and tells him to take his hand.
Yeah, but we had different interpretations of this. You thought that, you know, the Jason's dad was just like, no, I'm not going to trust you, you know, but for me it was more like, no, another monster, that's why Jason had to show him, no, it's okay, I'm a good guy, it's okay,
yeah.
I'm trying to help you, so.
But I also thought it was in...
Which can often happen in emergency situations,
yes. I also thought it was more... Jason and his dad were a bit adversarial, like they weren't on the best terms.
This wasn't what that case was, because his mask was on and he couldn't tell and he was like hysteric, right? Because he'd just been like, monsters were attacking the city, so he automatically assumed that this was another monster.
Yeah.
But then
Jason pulls him out of the truck and he runs back to his Zord, and this is the weird thing, they wore visors. And like and every single time they were in the Zords, they took the visors off.
And so, you're using a Transformers toy as an example.
I wish I had a better example.
Yeah, but I don't have any Power Rangers toys.
Yeah, like they have a visor which is over their eyes, and then they have a mouth plate. And whenever they deactivate it, they take off the mouth plate as well. So it's just the whole front of their face. It's like if I just ripped off a mask.
Yeah. Oh, it's kind of like Iron Man's when his faceplate comes off, sort of.
But also, it's just funny, I'm just remembering, in the original show, whenever they would, like, in the command center, they would just take their whole helmet off. Like, it was an actual proper helmet that you would have to unbuckle.
Well, again, they're capitalizing on Marvel, obviously, with Iron Man. Like, again, Billy mentioned, are we more like Iron Man or more like Spider-Man?
Yeah,
and we're on, like, both.
When we were asking, when he was asking, are we going to become superheroes? Yeah, I think we already discussed that, but...
Yeah.
So then, they think they beat Rita by like hitting her with Billy's Zord. Kimberly threw his Zord into her, and like the putties are beaten, and they're like, "Did we win?" But then Goldar revives her because she's at this point made out of gold. She's part gold, so I guess he can revive her.
Yeah.
And then he breaks through the ground to find the Zeo crystal.
Yeah.
And then they stand...
The planet egg.
Yeah. They stand in a formation, like, all in a straight line. Like, do. And then Jason's like... He is a very football reference, like, stand the line. Like, it's very much like what you're telling a defensive line to do in a football game.
I was actually more thinking of X-Men The Last Stand because, you know, Marvel. Yeah. We have to rip off every single Marvel movie ever made because, you know, we're cashing in on it.
So then Goldar's beating the crap out of them and he pushes them into the pit. And Billy's like, not the pit again! But they fall down, and this is, I think, one of the last bits of homage where in the original show, in the Green with Evil saga, in the last the climactic battle, the Green Ranger goes giant, so they have to fight the Green Ranger, Goldar, and Scorpina, and they knock the Megazord into a pit of lava because the Zord is solar powered, so they're doing this at an eclipse when it's at its least amount of power.
So like Superman.
Yeah. So they knock the Zords into the lava, and all the Rangers are in the original show like screaming at their Zords, which I feel Jason homaged too much. Billy!
Billy!
But in that lava pit ended up reviving their Zords because they sucked up its power, it recharged them.
Well, it wasn't the lava that recharged, it was the Zeo crystal.
No, I mean in the original show.
Oh.
Okay. It basically, the lava was they used as a source of power to revive, but in this one they fell into the Zeo crystal and combined into a giant...
And as you mentioned, you know, in a totally implausible way that they had to do off-screen because there's no way that you could transform those dinosaur Zords into that...
A giant bipedal robot.
Yeah, that's even more humanoid looking than that.
Yes. And then they get up and Billy's like, we're in some giant Zord, some Mother Zord.
No, that's lame. That's more like a Megazord.
And then they continue the fight with Goldar. He still keeps kick the crap out of them a little because they don't. At the first, they don't understand that each of them controls a different part of the Megazord.
So yeah, and this is the part that started to rip off Pacific Rim because
So they punch him. They have a little bit back and forth, and then they knock him down. And Jason's like, "We have swords." Which, how did he know they have swords? But this is the same thing you could ask about his arm sword.
Well, the thing is, they got plugged in directly into the Megazord, meaning that they were probably all linked mentally to it. So then he just read, "Oh, I can sense that we have swords now," because I would imagine they could actually feel each hit, so they would feel that too.
Yeah, they were the Megazord wings. So they take them off, they stab him, Goldar, which basically kills him.
Which, again, didn't really make a whole lot of sense because it showed that he was like made of giant golem made of molten gold. How would that kill him exactly?
But it was enough to release Rita Repulsa, and then
yeah, I guess they took up too much energy from her from that impact, so she weakened enough that it just sort of dissolved.
And then, here's another weird thing. So, like, after this scene, so the scene is Rita Repulsa staring at Jason, and somehow she can see him through the cockpit. But later,
well, she has superpowers.
Yes, but okay, that's enough of explanation right there. So, Jason wants to bring her to Zordon to stand trial for her crimes.
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, Zordon shall never judge me. I am worthy." And then jumps at the Megazord, and he freaking tells Trini to backhand her, and he freaking backhand her into space, which was a callback to earlier in the movie when Jason slapped the bully across the face.
And also, of course, a callback because the moon was in the shot. It was like, after 10,000 years I'm free. It's trying to conquer that poorly rendered image of Earth.
But so she freezes, and her staff is right next to her with the power coin still there.
So yeah, it's probably implying that in the next movie, some sort of astronauts are going to find her on the moon or something, frozen solid. Like, oh crap.
Make way too many references to Day of the Dumpster.
Day of the Dumpster.
That was the name of the first episode with that scene in it.
Again, you're a bigger...
Yes.
Anyway.
So then they cut back to the Megazord and all the civilians have realized, hey, they won. So they come out and start like looking up at him. And freaking Billy notices like, "Hey, is that our principal?" And he's like, "Oh wait, he probably can't see me."
Yeah.
That was what I was going to get to, was Rita can see through the cockpits, but regular civilians can't.
Well, again, she has superpowers just like they did, so she probably had supervision or whatever, and she implied that she was psychic too.
Yeah. So then it cuts to a scene of Jason David Frank and Amy Jo Johnson, the original Green and Pink Rangers, in the crowd taking photos, looking at each other like, "Hey, we know what's going on." Like, that's exactly what I thought. Like, they're looking up and be like, "Hey, we know what's going on. We've done this before." And then it basically cuts to Jason walking back into the spaceship and sticking the sword back into it.
Yeah, like.
And then basically a fade to black. Well, fade to a really cool end credits with like all the crystal formations.
Well, no, actually.
Oh no! Yeah, there was the Aisha scene, Trini scene.
Well, it actually had a few scenes of, very brief scenes of wrapping up all the. Family stuff where everyone, where it's basically, a typical superhero movie ending where, all the heroes go back to their families and their parents tell them, "Hey, did you see that cool scene, the thing that happened with the superheroes?" They're like, "Yeah."
Yeah, it was Trini was fixing the hole in her wall, the crack in the wall that Rita formed.
Yeah.
And her two little siblings were sitting there with giant statues of the Power Rangers already, because it's a toy advert. It's never been anything but a toy advert. And they're like, "I want to be..." Yes. The little kids are like, "I want to be the Red Ranger. I want to be this." And Trini's like, why don't you want to be the Yellow Ranger?" And her her little kids are like,
he's
he's
awesome.
cool, he's awesome, and she's like, why are you so sure it's a guy?
Yeah, but of course there are other like brief scenes like Zach with his mother, playing chess, and her describing like a great hero warrior,
like 5 warriors, and Zach's like, did they look hot? Or
and then she's like, checkmate.
Yeah, because you can't say anything besides they were wearing face masks. I couldn't see. I can't remember what Kimberly did, but. And then they go back to the school, and early in the movie they were using their superpowers to fling pieces of paper.
Yeah.
And one of the papers said, "Let's start a band."
Yeah, and of course each time they hit the paper at the bully guy, and he's like,
that was just Billy at the end.
Yeah, but no, it happened earlier in the movie too.
They didn't hit the bully. Jason still had the paper in his pocket, or Billy still had it in his pocket when he died. They pulled it out of his pocket.
Well, the thing is, I do remember them throwing a paper at him.
Yeah, that was at the last scene. That was the second time.
True, but it did happen before, and that time it was more by accident.
Yeah.
And this time they did it deliberately, but I'm only thinking that is like, I don't care how strong they are, there's no way you can throw a piece of paper that fast and not have it slowed down by air resistance to the point where because even if you shot it with an air cannon, it wouldn't knock the guy over. It would, at worst, it would like really hurt. And you'd be like, ow!
But there's also, Jason unfolded the paper and it had a lightning bolt. It had a 5-colored lightning bolt, which has always been the Power Rangers logo, a version of a lightning bolt.
Yeah. A Pikachu tail. Because I'm a Pikachu!
And then there was the end credits, the credits with really weird gem formations.
Yeah.
And then they cut to basically back to detention with the teacher, like, there's a new student in class, Tommy Oliver,
and of course like a green
it cuts to his desk where there's no one there
except for a green jacket,
because Tommy Oliver is the Green Ranger.
And then he's like Billy Cranston, and then poof, wall explodes. Sorry.
And that's it. That's the end of the movie.
Yeah, this was a long review. This one might have been even longer than the Logan.
We went basically through every single detail of the movie.
Yeah, this might have been even longer than the Logan review.
I mean, I could talk about this movie for days on end if I wanted to.
You said 90% of the stuff. I just sort of added.
Yeah.
Well,
but yeah, it was a really good modern adaptation of a superhero, of an old, really cheesy gimmick.
And as somewhat of an outsider to the fandom now, I thought it was pretty good. It felt to me like very much in the vibe of an MCU movie, but with Power Rangers. So it was good. I enjoyed it.
And like I've seen people complain about the too much, like, not enough action, like just probably critics, but you kind of need that when you're rebooting a popular franchise.
The origin story movie, right? Like every superhero franchise needs one to start off.
Because you have a lot of people who probably don't know the backstory and probably never watched Mighty Morphin. And
it's the same thing with like the first Iron Man, with Doctor Strange, even with like Captain America and Thor, the Hulk. Actually, I haven't actually seen any of the live-action Hulk movies. I should. Right. But yeah, basically every superhero movie ever, like Spider-Man, anyway. But yeah, it's very much, yeah. So, I guess that's it until whenever we do another video. Maybe it'll even be tomorrow because we're actually going to see Guardians of the Galaxy tomorrow. Yeah. So
I just remember there's an extra scene removed. There was a cameo. They did a cameo for Jason David Frank and Amy Jo Johnson. Originally, they were going to be in the Krispy Kreme when we didn't mention this, but Rita walks into the Krispy Kreme before she destroys it.
She just sort of grabs the dough and starts eating it like what is this new delicious pastry?
And Amy Jo Johnson and Jason David Frank were going to be sitting at a different table in there.
Which really wouldn't have worked
yeah.
because, you know, the city was being destroyed. Why the hell would they be just sitting there, especially with the main villain there? She would have killed them.
Because they're former Power Rangers.
I know, but then all the more reason why she would have just killed them.
Yeah.
So I can understand why they did
They were
that.
never Power Rangers in this continuity.
I know, but either way, whether they're random civilians or not, they wouldn't have stuck around.
Yeah,
If they did, she would have just killed them on sight.
Yeah, Jason David Frank even grew out his ponytail for the cameo. Like he grew his hair to what it was in the show originally.
Yeah, it might have worked if they'd done it in like a less action-packed scene.
Yeah,
Maybe if they were just like casually like in a store on the street or something, as they were like the Power Rangers were still learning or whatever.
Yeah.
But you know,
and this is something funny I remember at the red carpet premiere of the movie. They had Saban, his wife, and 4 of the original Power Rangers. They had Jason, Billy, Zach, and Tommy. And when I'm using the character names, but they went to see the movie, and Jason David Frank tried to film his cameo, because he's very like he does the social media a lot, like he films himself a lot, but he got kicked out of the movie because the security didn't know who he was, and didn't know all they saw was a guy filming the movie, which is illegal when you film, and like, you're not allowed to film a movie on a red carpet release.
Yeah,
it's illegal. So I don't know if it's illegal, but they kicked him out before he could see his cameo. I found that hilarious. A lot of Power Ranger people that I follow got to go to that red carpet release, which was really cool. But I think that basically wraps up everything about Mighty Morphin.
Yeah.
I want a million sequels. There's already a graphic novel sequel to the movie, which I
going to review.
Plan to review on my own channel. I'm just waiting for the alternative cover because I would rather have both covers at once. Because I want to talk about both covers.
Because Linkara.
Because Linkara.
Because we are,
we
obligatory
are Power Rangers!
Well, you are. I'm a Pikachu.
Bye.